Globalization has been shaping our world at a rapid pace lately. In this context, internationally operating companies often face the difficult juggling act of keeping a good balance between corporate and local culture. Hello, my name is Lieve Mulier from the R&E Center Inclusive Society at UCLL. In this video, we'll look at a common dilemma that multinational companies face. Multinationals mainly operate from a centralized head office, where they coordinate all global activities, but they also have branches or production sites in different countries where the local way of doing things does not always match with what head office prescribes. Global managers do carry a lot of responsibility in this complex situation. They usually search for constructive ways to handle possible conflict between what corporate sets down in terms of global policy and what local considers to be important, customary, and familiar. Questions to be asked are, should corporate culture be dominant and supersede local culture? Or should each location have its own organizational culture, for example? Or put differently, should global consistency outweigh local autonomy? Should policies be directed centrally or delegated locally? For global managers who are regularly dealing with this challenge, it usually comes down to finding effective ways to streamline corporate policy with local considerations. Let's look at one international company in particular, Materialise. Materialise is a fast-growing, high-tech company headquartered in Belgium with different branches across the world and employs 2,200 people in more than 25 countries. The company has local teams, such as sales, marketing, and staff, that are functional in different countries. But the company also has global teams that operate worldwide. For example, the IT department operates mainly from the Ukraine, there are production sites in Poland, Germany, and the Czech Republic, and there are software and development teams operating in the Ukraine and Malaysia. What about the company's vision and business strategy? These are mainly defined at head office, so centrally. But the different perspectives of the local market needs are also valued and are integrated in the company's business strategy. Let's listen to Connie Hoge, who is the Global HR Director at Materialise. She explains how the company deals with this balancing act when corporate guidelines confront local customs and habits.
More and more, we are also organizing ourselves on a global level, which means that we are applying global policies and processes, but also tools and systems. Now, the only way to get a buy-in and making sure that we take into account the local habits is involving the local management as soon as possible in the process, and to be transparent on what are the objectives, the framework, and the level of autonomy they have within their framework. So it's very important that we clarify what we expect from everyone and what the level of freedom is. Having attention, as I said, for their local requirements, also sometimes legislation and habits which are in place. But to be honest as well, it's always looking after the right balance between operating as a global team on the one hand and having respect for local cultural aspects.
The corporate approach at Materialise is clear. Flexible corporate guidelines with respect for local customs and autonomy. Putting this approach into practice still requires effective managerial skills. So Connie explains the situation by an example. At Materialise, a pilot project was launched on a new way of working for the future. Let's listen.
Last year, when most of us were all of a sudden forced to work remotely, we started at a time a project to define how the new working conditions could look like when we should return to the new normal. The only thing we did was sharing some basic guidelines, and we asked teams all over the world to be a volunteer and to do some pilots and to give input directly to the project manager at headquarters. And we asked them to give input on when, where, and how to work. Now, the assumption we took was that a bottom-up approach would be very appreciated as we were asking their input directly. And we assumed at headquarters as well that we have a company already in place with a culture which is characterized by openness, transparency, and no or very little formal hierarchy. But what did we notice? We noticed that some countries, which are more sensitive for hierarchy, that they asked first the approval of their local management before sending their proposal to the project manager. So they were not at all confident that they could give their input directly without any involvement or decision from their local management, although everybody was briefed that we expected this that they would do. So in that case, we had to sensitize again local management and employees and convince them that giving open and direct inputs and feedback, that it's really a habit that we would like to see in our company.
In conclusion, creating a common understanding of corporate values and local approaches or attitudes remains a balancing act that takes time, but it is necessary to obtain an effective working relationship.